Say that again. It's something that we can call forth from the inside, even when the circumstances don't make it easy. That quote comes from the great philosopher Wynton Marsalis, a great jazz player and composer. Who knew? I'll just leave it there. Who knew? Unity teaches us that joy is not an accident. It teaches us that it's not a mood. It's a divine faculty closely associated with zeal, and the Fillmores calls it the inner fire or enthusiasm that energizes us. So joy actually is a choice. You can decide at this moment to choose joy. It goes on to say, Reverend Fillmore says that it's a joy, it's a divine power that we actively express. I can remember when I first started in Unity, hadn't really totally made that commitment at that point. And I asked Reverend Helen Saunders in her wonderful church in Omaha, Nebraska, that sat on the top of a hill that I almost didn't go to. That's another story. But I asked her, how can I get wisdom? I want to pray for wisdom. Can you pray for me with wisdom? She says, I'm not going to pray for that. I'm like, what? She goes, you have the wisdom already in you. She goes, Gerald, call it forth. Spirit has already given you all that you need. Spirit has already given you joy. We have to settle down and call it out. We have to call it out. She said to me that when she studies, she goes into a room and she would read and she'd go over scriptures, go over pamphlets by Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, and she would notice that the end of that session, she could see the glow of a light going out. She said she knew that Spirit was with her, even in that moment. 1988, I'm taking you back now. Already gone through my indoctrination with Unity, and we're on our honeymoon. We were so broke. Let me tell you how broke we are. Don't tell them. We were broke the broke. We were married in September of '87. Somebody say, how broke? We were so broke that we couldn't even afford a honeymoon until the next year. And we were doubtful with that, and I had to win a sales contest in order to take my new bride on our honeymoon. We went to a place called Puerto Vallarta. I could barely say the word. I didn't even know where it was. Francine said, it's in Mexico, okay? So we go there, and you've heard this just like I've heard it before. When you go to certain regions of the world, there are certain things that you do, certain things that you don't do. And one of those things that you don't do is drink the water. Have you ever heard that? Somebody say yes? I heard that. So I heeded that. And I was with my sales manager from whom we won the sales contest. And we were having a lovely dinner. The weather was pristine. It was just incredible. And we're sitting outside and we're eating and having a good time and not drinking the water. And we all ordered our different entrees that night. And I ordered mine, and I had beef or something like that. And the trip was just so wonderful. Francine and I came back completely sunburned. It was just an incredible, wonderful, it was an experience, but I didn't expect to come back that way. But after a day or two, I was just doubled over in pain. My stomach was like it was trying to come out of my body. One doctor became two doctors. Months go by, no relief. I bought out Pepto-Bismol at the store, and I'm not exaggerating. There was nothing that would help me. 6 doctors, 10 doctors. And I finally got to a place where, after countless appointments and uncertainty, the doctor put his hand on my shoulder and he says, "You know what? We have a diagnosis for you." I said, "Okay, what is it?" He says, "Well, you have ulcerative colitis." I said, I knew what an ulcer is. And he says, "But it's ulcerative colitis," and he said it really quickly. All I knew is that he said that it's a chronic illness that affected young people at that time, that it messes with your colon, it messes with your gut, it impacts the quality of life. I couldn't walk through a Macy's or a store and the fragrances would upset my stomach and I had to run. I'll leave it there. I had to run. And it's hard to explain unless you've lived it, and I hope you never have to live through that. But the interesting thing they told me was that, "Gerald, there is no cure for ulcerative colitis. This is something you'll have to live with." So the diagnosis came, but the healing didn't come. Not then, and I'm living with that diagnosis. And I kept working, though. I kept showing up. I'm new to Unity, and I know that what the thoughts we hold in mind produce after their kind. I kept praying. I even fasted, Sharon. Affirmations. I did everything Unity teaches, and sometimes I felt like I had nothing at all to show for it. I was beginning to think that the Myrtle Fillmore kind of healing, and we all know the story of Myrtle Fillmore healing herself and talking to her body. I was talking to my body all the doggone time, and my body was just responding with Unity Woodbury, where Reverend Festus started his ministry here in town. We were there, and he invited a speaker to come in. And the speaker says, "We're going to heal. If you got anything going on, we're going to heal you." And he brought his books and his pamphlets. You remember this, Sharon. He brought his books and his pamphlets. And I was like, "Oh, I'm about ready to get healed. This is going to be a wonderful thing." And I read the books. And you know what? It didn't work. I thought in that long, quiet valley that joy would visit me. But something strange happened in the middle of all that. It was an understanding down in here somewhere that said, "Gerald, you're not alone." He didn't say, "I got you," but I had that feeling that I got you. And that whisper, that presence, that joy, it's not circumstantial, but it was spiritual. How many of you have ever said, "I'll do something for you, but if you do this"? Or you've heard the Law and Order TV shows. They said, "Well, we got all this evidence," but they said, no, you don't have anything because it's circumstantial. We need hard evidence. We need facts. You've heard that before. You've watched the shows. All I had was circumstantial evidence. And then 6 years ago this December, nearly 4 decades later, dang, Francine, that's a long time, I heard the words that, "Gerald, you're in remission." I said, "Remission from what?" "From your ulcerative colitis. You're in remission." When we looked, we saw the tracks of where it was, but there's nothing there. Let me tell you, that's not just a medical update. That was a spiritual milestone, a confirmation of the affirmation, Sharon. And I was flooded not with just relief, but with joy. Now, think about this. Joy, it had been growing in me silently for years. But I always knew that joy would never forget me, It wouldn't leave me. And I'm not talking about healing this morning. I'm talking about joy. Let me explain a little further. I thought that if I were to ever be healed, that I'd be like Reverend Stacy, I'm sorry, I'm doing it again, jumping up and down, woohoo, I'm healed, everything is good, thank you, thank you. It wasn't anything like that at all. I sat there with my doctor, and she looked at me, and she had tears coming down out of her eyes. And I'm like, why are you crying? She says, it's not often I see something like this. And even when I read the paper they give you upon exiting, I still didn't understand what was going on. That was in December. What a Christmas present that year. I took a picture of myself and I said, this is what healing looks like. This is what joy looks like. And that's the kind of joy that I'm trying to share feebly so with you this morning. I hope I'm getting through to some of you. I mean, if we are, it's okay. Let me see if I can break it down even further. Not all joy comes with fanfare or a wonderful diagnosis. Sometimes it shows up in the small things. A few weeks ago, I lost my coffee thermos. Small, but insignificant. But it was really important to me in my daily routine. Folks, I get up at 2 o'clock in the doggone morning. Caffeine has to be a part of my life. Whether it's half calf or full calf, I need some calf in my life. I searched everywhere, my house, my car, office. I asked Francine to help. She says, I'll find it because you don't know how to look for anything when you lose it. She looked, and she couldn't find it. So I did what I was supposed to do. I called Tyler Stromquist. I said, Tyler, where is Tyler? I said, Tyler, verify this for me. I said, did I leave my thermos at Unity? What'd you say?
I have not seen it anywhere in the building.
Nowhere. Thank you. Nowhere in the building. It wasn't there. Nothing turned up. So I just forgot about it. I said, okay, well. I'm in the car wash, holiday car wash. Suds and everything going on. You know how it is. How many of you have ever washed your car? So anyway, in the car wash, and then here's ping. And I looked at my phone, and there was a message from Francine, and it said, "Would this work for you?" I scrolled up a bit, and there was a picture of a thermos, a brand new one, that she had purchased for me, actually better than the one that I had lost. And just like that, I was just overwhelmed. Not just by the gift, but by the gesture. A small moment that brought me tremendous joy. It called it out of me. It was already there. I mean, she could have given me a $2 cup, and I would have been happy. There are some external forces, and this story reminded me of that. There are some external forces that can activate the joy that's already in us. Sometimes we mistake that external force for joy. That's not the way it works. If you didn't have the joy already inside you, I don't care what the external force is, it's not going to happen for you. But I believe this, that in that ascension time when Jesus went back to be with the Spirit, that he left us that spark of divinity within each one of us, that Holy Spirit. Each one of us has that. So I want to remind you that joy doesn't need a spotlight. Sometimes it shows up in the kindness of others just thinking about you. And I'm thinking about the Rolifsons. Not long ago, Sharon and Don came back from Unity Village, and Sharon says, "Gerald, I want to talk with you." And she came up to me, and she had this canvas bag, and it had emblazoned on it, Unity. She says, "I got this for you." I said, "Oh, thank you." And I was like a little kid. I said, "I can't wait to open it up and see what's inside." And inside were all these Unity booklets And I didn't even have to read the title. I was just so ecstatic. And I'm excited thinking about it now. And one of them were the letters of Myrtle Fillmore. I mean, it was just wonderful. But if somebody years ago had given me a stack of books, I'm like, what are you talking? This is what you're thinking about? This is. But there's a shift in my life. The Spirit is active in my life. So as I said, it doesn't need a spotlight. Now let me tell you about choosing joy in places where it doesn't come easy. I've been working for 2 years on a $17 million capital campaign to relocate our broadcast facility. Some of you know about that. The Blue Line is scheduled to come in our building, and they told me it would be okay because it would only come 35 feet into our building. So this new building that we're working on is not a dream, it's a necessity. And let's just say that not everybody on my team helping me with this is easy to work with. There's one person in particular. She's gifted, she's sharp, sharp-tongued too. And Francine has a T-shirt that says, "Killing them with kindness is taking longer than I thought." It pretty much sums it up. And then I realized I've got 2 or 3 more years to work with this woman. I can't carry this kind of energy for another 36 months or so. And Spirit nudged me a bit, not to fight it, not to fake it, but to bless it. So I wrote her a note, and I told her the truth. I said, "I want you to know that I see you. Your expertise is making a difference on everything that you're touching, and I appreciate what you bring, Gerald." She wrote back quickly, "What a wonderful way, with a teary eye, to start the day, reading a note like that from you. I did not expect that, but I got to tell you, the joy came forth." You know, that moment turned the whole dynamic around. That joy I felt wasn't from her. It came through me. Do you see that? It came through me. And in blessing her, I healed something in me. The music of the soul, recognizing joy in everybody else. You know, we sing a beautiful song here that says, "I behold the Christ in you." I behold the Christ in you. And I changed the words a little bit. It's the joy of God I see. Because when you really see someone, not their flaws, not their rough edges, you see the Spirit in them, and joy becomes unavoidable. And that's what Jesus saw in his people that he talked with. He says that's what you're called to see in others is what you see in yourself. And there's another song that we sing around here, and it's not one of my favorites, but it goes, "I got that joy, 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 joy down in." I really like that song, no. But it's teaching us that, it's reminding us that joy is down in our hearts, is in us. And joy affirms that those 12 powers, and Nehemiah says, "The joy of the Lord is my strength." So joy isn't what we feel after things go right. Joy is what keeps us steady when things go wrong. Joy is not the result of healing, it's often the vehicle to it. So there are 4 practices. If you've ever heard of the GAP, I'm going to give you an acronym as we go through. And this is how we strengthen joy. First, we do it with gratitude. Start small. Every thank you counts. And Marlene Qualley used to talk about giving thank you notes. Now, that's number 1. Number 2 is an affirmation. You could use this one. "I am a living expression of divine joy." Somebody say that with me. I'm a living expression of divine joy. Number 3, appreciation and service. Speak the good out loud. Bless others, even the hard ones to bless. I see you. And then number 4 is presence. Joy lives in the now moment, and this moment is really enough. And then finally, choose joy again. So I gave you gratitude, affirmation, appreciation, and presence. That's the GAP, GAAP. So if somebody asked you what we spoke about today, you can talk about that, living in the gap. So today, let's not wait for joy to show up. Let's meet it at the door. Let's unlock it in us and choose it again and again and again, because joy is your superpower. Friends, when you got that joy, it's not just about smiling, Reverend Stacy, through the sunshine. It's not that. It's about standing strong in the storm. It's about showing up as you when you need to be there. And when you've got that joy, you can sit in the doctor's office after 38 years of prayer and hear the words, "You are in remission." And you can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that Spirit did this. And when you got that joy, you can lose a thermos. You can send a dozen emails and think it's gone forever. You can talk to Tyler Stromquist. And then you get a message from a friend that says, "Would this work for you?" And realize the Spirit just found another way to remind you that the divine lives in you. When you got that joy, you can look at that coworker who tests your last nerve, and you can write a note that says, "I appreciate you." And in doing so, just stand back and watch the atmosphere shift because you had the courage to call out something in you. Because joy doesn't just show up, you cultivate it. You water it with gratitude. You strengthen it with affirmations. You express it with kindness. You keep it alive by, as Myrtle Fillmore has said, and Reverend Stacy is wont to say, you get at it. It's not a passive action at all. And when you got that kind of joy, nothing, no diagnosis, no delay, no disagreement, no cantankerous people can take it away from you, because your joy is in the joy of living. We've got that joy, joy, joy down in our hearts. Quietly now. Let joy rise. Take in a deep breath. If you feel like it, you can close your eyes or put your hand over your heart and visualize a golden light glowing inside you. That's the joy of Spirit living in you already. You don't have to earn it. It's always present. Silently affirm, "I choose joy. I live in joy. I radiate joy." Now picture someone who could use the light of your joy today. Send this light from your heart to theirs. Now bring that back and let it rest inside you, that golden light. Behold the Christ in you. It's the joy of God we see. And so it is. As we come back to this time and this place, know that you've been changed at depth, that the joy that I'm experiencing right now, just being with you, maybe you can take that with you for the next 10 minutes or so, or for the next 10 to 20 years. Joy is there with you. Thank you so much for your attention this morning. Thank you.